up next is another coach speak. We're talking about Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, International Solar Alliance, who has now arrived in Stuttgart all the way from Baku, where he was attending the COP29 meet. Let's hear from him all that went right and wrong at COP29, where the contentious net collective quantified goals around climate financing were discussed. Let's hear it.
Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. First of all, I apologize for being late in being with you, but this was an opportunity I had to fully accomplish. I'm delighted to be here, and believe you me, the sunlight makes it completely worth it. I spent 5 cloudy days in Baku, and coming back into the sunlight makes it seem that solar is actually here. Well, this is the home of solar. This is where solar started. Even today, Germany manufactures something like 26 gigawatts of the starting block of solar. You know, the solar chain has these things called solar, well, first of all, you make polysilicon, then you make the solar, the ingots out of it, and from the ingots you make solar cells, and from solar cells you make the solar modules that you and I use. That's the supply chain. Germany makes 26 gigawatts of solar ingots, the starting point. Most of Europe uses German ingots. A few months ago, when I was looking at getting machinery for India for making solar ingots, we found that the cheapest, well, in terms of the value for money, the best machinery was coming from China. Now, this is something we need to change, and I think that together we can change it. It's not as if we don't have history about it. You look at 20 years ago, when the wind revolution was taking off, the wind machines were being designed in Germany and being manufactured in India, and they were being exported to the rest of the world. I believe it is a model that makes sense. The manpower here, together with the manpower that comes from India, can provide the kind of cutting-edge information that is needed, the cutting-edge knowledge and information that is needed to design cutting-edge technology. Manufacturing is much cheaper in India, but together we can conquer the world. And it is with that thought that I looked at the solar picture. When I look at the solar picture, I see that the huge advantage that this country had, I mean, Germany paid as much as 50 euro cents for a kilowatt hour of electricity from solar. Germany is the reason why the world has solar today at not 50 US cents, not 50 euro cents, at 2 US cents, 1.5 US cents. This is the power of scale. I believe that the power of scale is amazingly useful as we move ahead. We therefore, in our own thinking, we tend to divide the world into 4 parts. The first is countries like Germany, where, in a sense, the energy consumption is more or less constant. Yes, it is increasing because of electrification of the transport sector, something that Santosh talked about. It is increasing because of the electricity being used for the manufacture of green hydrogen, but more or less it's constant per capita. What this means is that in Germany, you've been able to use solar energy during the day. And the German solar energy during the day is, well, cheaper than anything else, but it's only available during the day. So at night, the vast amount of electricity, something like 10 gigawatts of electricity, comes from lignite and gas because solar is not available. What it means is that the ability to use existing capacity, lignite and gas, is there. When I look at India, I see the generators and distribution companies coming to me and saying, listen, we'll gladly put up solar during the day. But what happens at night? Because there the demand is increasing. The demand is increasing at the day and at night. So solar provides during the day. What do we do at night? Do I set up a coal power station to meet the need during the night? That doesn't make sense. In other words, for these countries, these large developing countries where huge amount of growth is occurring, we need to focus on batteries. Because batteries allows us to store the solar electricity that is produced during the day and use it at night. Then you have the smaller developing countries. In the smaller developing countries, the biggest problem is that everybody does not have access to electricity. There, it is important that we start looking at options. And there is no cheaper option than looking at a solar mini-grid, which is solar plus batteries. Solar plus batteries provide electricity to people who have never had it at a price that is cheaper than extending the grid. If you have to extend the grid by more than 10 to 15 kilometers, solar plus batteries is cheaper. This is what we need to focus on as far as the smaller developing countries are concerned. And then you have the small island states. You know, I went to Fiji, and in going from the big island to the small island, how do you go? You go by boat. What does the boat run on? Diesel. Where are the electric boats? Where are the solar boats? They aren't there. Because neither Germany nor India has invested in creating a high-speed boat that can take 100 passengers from one island to the other. In other words, we need to look at these countries and develop the products that they need. They are a very special market. They are not large enough to make it by themselves. But we can certainly enable that transition. The point that I want to leave with you is that coming out of Baku, these 4 archetypes of countries were very, very clear. It is very clear that there are the developed countries, the large developing countries, the smaller developing countries, and the small island states. And in almost everything, whether it is the solar philosophy that we talk about, or whether it is their own strategies for the energy transition that we are talking about, they are very different. We are right now faced with a number of challenges. We are looking at moving the carbon emission reductions that occur in the developing countries to the developed countries, to the so-called offsets. I would argue that instead of having a general approach of developed and developing, we need to move into these 4 categories and move the kinds of activities which make sense, which move the needle as far as the energy transition is concerned into the global picture. We also talked about the fact that there will be a need for a resource transfer, financial transfer from the developed countries to the developing countries. What I think is very clear is that as far as investments are concerned, you don't need any government money. Financial money, your pension money and my pension money is good enough because we get a return on that. We get a return on the electricity that is sold. Yes, there may be perceived problems as far as payments are concerned. There may be perceived problems as far as the success of the technology is concerned. For perceived problems, if you have to spend public sector money, let's spend it on guarantees so that we can pull private sector investment money into the green sector. I request you to think of seeing how we can create these guarantees. At the International Solar Alliance, we are creating a guarantee to help provide payment guarantee mechanisms for all international investors who invest in the decentralized solar in Africa. Why decentralized solar? Because ultimately solar has to hit you and I. Remember, you and I. Where does this, is the solar on the rooftop? It's the solar pump on the farm. It's the solar mini grid. That's where you and I see solar. That will make a change in our lives. My short point that I want to leave you with is that change is possible. We looked at a number of solar startups across the world. We identified 20 in Africa. There were 180 who applied in Africa, 20 were selected. We looked at startups in the Asia-Pacific region, 30 in the Asia-Pacific region, including 10 in India. And we are now looking at identifying 20 startups in the Latin America region. Believe you me, the kinds of new applications that they talk about are just out of the world. There was a guy in India who had developed a robotic arm to clean solar panels. Solar panels become dusty in the Indian environment. And a robotic panel helps clean those solar panels. Amazing. In Africa, there was a fellow who was making and selling carts for cold food or hot food using solar technology. I was completely blown by both the range of products that these guys had developed, as well as the fact that you and I were willing to pay to get those products. I believe that we can make a difference. We can make a difference by going ahead and enabling investments to flow on the one hand and enabling these entrepreneurs to develop on the other hand. I thank you for your attention.
Stay on stage, sir. Please stay on stage. We have to do your felicitation. Requesting Ruben Kasper and Mr. Harshul Asnani. Please take the stage. Can we have Mr. Harshul Asnani? Okay, requesting Hemant Sharma ji to please take the stage.
Dr. Mathur, you hold the future of our planet in your hands. We can't let you get away so easy. We have to ensure we're in safe hands.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Hemant Sharma ji, for taking the stage.